Hi, I'm John Maxwell. When the top companies in the world are looking for trainers, speakers, and coaches, there's one name that stands above the rest, and that's Maxwell Leadership. Our certified team members have gotten proven results for companies all over the globe, and our reputation, I'm proud to say, is second to none. Some of our members have risen to the top of their profession, including the one you're going to meet today. I proudly introduce you to my friend Bob Fabian Zinka.
Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ, where we help you lead with purpose and succeed with impact. If you're ready to grow into the kind of leader others want to follow, this podcast is for you. If you're determined to elevate your success and leave a lasting legacy, this podcast is for you. As my mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell reminds us, everything rises and falls on leadership. Our goal is simple: to inspire you, challenge you, and equip you with insights that can transform the trajectory of your leadership journey. Welcome aboard to another episode of the Leadership and Success Podcast with Coach BZ.
Many organizations assume that if performance exists, alignment exists, but that is not always true. A company can be profitable and still struggle with disengagement, leadership fatigue, communication breakdown, and inconsistent decision making. Because organizations do not rise or fall only because of strategy, they rise or fall because of leadership alignment. Hi, my name is Lorna A. George, and I partner with women in senior leadership positions who are seeking greater alignment between their values and their leadership role. Because when leadership becomes misaligned, even high-performing organizations begin to feel the impact. And that is why I created the stats framework and the VIP framework. The stats framework help organizations identify where they are operating in stagnation, transition, aspiration, or significance. And the VIP framework focuses on the three critical leadership pillars: values, impact, and people.
All right, everyone, welcome to another very special episode of the Leadership and Success Podcast. Do we have a treat for you today? So, before we get started, as is our custom, we like to start with what we call, moment of gratitude. So, you already know what to do. So, if you would please close your eyes and put yourself in your happy place. And while you are there, take a deep breath and think about one thing you are grateful for today. Well, today, I am really grateful for the power of technology. It is really, really amazing to me that I am here in San Francisco Bay Area, Silicon Valley, California, and I am able to talk to somebody all the way on the other side of the world in Canada, Ontario, and we can talk in real time and share knowledge and collaborate, and that is just so wonderful. I am so grateful for technology today. So let us know what you are grateful for. Let us know where you are joining us from, what city, what state, and if outside of the US, which country. I know I have invited all of my friends who live in Toronto. I think about 100 of you. Hopefully you are watching live, so let us know you are here. And let us know what you are grateful for. Also, if you have a question for my guest, go ahead and type the question in the comments on YouTube or LinkedIn, and we're going to be answering live. All right. Without any further ado, let me see if I can properly introduce our guest today. I do believe that leadership doesn't begin with a title. It doesn't begin with authority. It doesn't begin with a corner office, a command, or a position. According to executive coach, corporate facilitator, author, and Maxwell Leadership Certified Coach Lorna A. George, leadership begins in the mirror. So, Coach Lorna is the founder of Equipping to Thrive and author of a powerful new book, Leadership Starts in the Mirror, Leading Me First to Lead Others Better. So, after practicing law for more than 18 years, Lorna dedicated her career to helping leaders move beyond achievement and into significance by aligning their values, impact, and people through a transformational VIP framework. We're going to be talking about that today. In this thought-provoking conversation, we are going to explore what it truly means to lead yourself before leading others. Part of what you're going to be learning is why leadership is the foundation of effective leadership, but also practical strategies to lead with greater clarity, confidence, authority, and purpose. So, but what if the greatest leadership breakthrough begins with developing ourselves? This is a conversation you would not want to miss. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, please help me welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast, the one and only Coach Lorna George. Hey, hello. How are you doing today?
Hello, you. Thank you so much for that introduction. Oh my goodness, you let
Hey,
me
you're
sound
welcome.
so. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I do
No,
appreciate it. Thank you.
it's really, really great to be seeing you today. I guess we really never met in person, but the first time I talked to you, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I felt
Yes,
like I've known you all of my life, and I think it's because we pretty much have very, very similar values. So
yes.
maybe to get started, is there something you are thankful for today, Coach Lorna?
You know what? I'm thankful for freedom.
Yes,
I am so. When I look about all what's going on around the world,
yes.
Coach Pop, I am so thankful for freedom.
That
Yes,
is so powerful. And I
yes.
know in the US, we are going to be celebrating on June 10th, this
Hmm.
Friday.
Yeah.
That's when African American were finally set free from the bondage of slavery. So,
Hmm.
definitely going to celebrate that. There is absolutely nothing like freedom. Is there
Yeah.
something about you, maybe, that most people may not know when they first meet you that you're willing to share?
Well, I've got a hearing disability. I messed my hearing up, while I was in law school as an adult, which is kind of sad, playing headphones really loud,
Hmm.
and it ended up damaging my hearing. So yeah, that was a struggle, something I had to deal with. Yes. So yes.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Is there any technology today that can help you hear better?
Well, I do wear a hearing aid, and but sometimes, back in the day, or recent, sometimes when I'm in court, I remember on one occasion it was going off,
Hmm.
and the reporter said to me, "Well, can't you take it out?" And I'm like thinking, if I take out my hearing aid, I can't hear.
Yeah.
So, and that's the problem with having a disability that's invisible.
Yes.
People see you, and sometimes you're talking to you and you don't hear, and they may make some assumptions. So that's one of the things. So yeah. So if you're talking to me and I ask you to repeat, I'm not wearing them now because
Yeah.
I've got these headphones in, but
Yes.
yes. So
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know a lot of people who watch these shows are in
mm,
the military, and I also know there is a lot of undiagnosed PTSDs in
yeah.
all branches of the military. I ended up being diagnosed myself a couple
Mm,
of years back, but I guess the way I look at it is maybe leading with other ability. I
mhm,
think, but yeah, thank you for sharing that. I guess many people they do know you today as an
mhm,
executive coach and a leadership facilitator, right?
mhm,
So, but your career really began in law, like you just
mhm,
mentioned. Tell us about your journey from litigator to leadership coach. How did
mhm.
that happen?
Yes. So I'm still practicing law, but I'm out of private practice. So I'm still practicing, still in the field of law, because I've got to tell you, it is something that I love. I really do love it, and I will find it hard to leave it behind.
Wow. Which part of the law do you practice?
Well, right now I'm in the criminal. I'm doing the
Ah,
criminal part of it, but
that's
the backstory in how I actually get into coaching has to do when I was in another area of law, family law. And for anyone who is on the podcast who has practiced family law, you know how emotional draining that can be. And that is one of the things that start my pivot. But I'm getting ahead of my story. But yes, but I love law. And yes, so I've been called now just over 20 years.
wow.
Yes, that I've been, because I went back to school as a mature student after leaving the bank, which the bank was really the genesis for writing the book.
Hmm.
But yes, so in 2018, actually, there's a discomfort that started in 2018, when I said, maybe it's time to start making a change,
Hmm.
and I started to feel that discomfort.
Yes.
And 2020 came with COVID,
Yes.
and it just kind of propelled me to make the jump to start making change to moving forward. When I
Mm,
started practicing law, my desire was to always ensure that I'd be a blessing to people
yes.
and I do things to uplift them. And I do see coaching and facilitating as the same thing as the field as trying to add value and uplifting people.
Wow.
So
That is
yes.
powerful. And I'm assuming that's the one when after COVID you became a Maxwell leadership certified coach.
Yes, I am telling you, and I say this, I want to be careful just how I say it. I know
Mhm.
COVID was difficult for a lot of people,
Yes.
extremely difficult. But you see, for me, it was a blessing.
Mm,
I am telling you, because it was like the really turning point that pushed me um, to stop, tolerating some of the things that I didn't like, you know.
yes.
I found myself in a situation where you're comfortable doing something and you didn't like it, but you know what, you stay there, because out of fear, I
Mm,
don't want to move forward. But COVID, yes, kind of pushed me. And that's when the first person from Maxwell that actually came to my purview was Valerie.
yes.
I saw a live to lead with Valerie. And for those of you who are not part
Mm,
of the Maxwell family, yes, yeah, live to lead is part of Maxwell. And that's
yes.
how I started learning about
Wow.
Valerie. And then it led me to John and then to Mark. And then obviously you as a Maxwell
Yeah.
family and Chris, and all these people. So, yes.
Wow, that is really awesome. Actually, it was during COVID that I got certified as well. It was during the August IMC in
Mhm.
Orlando, Florida. So you might have been there too, but
No, I got certified maybe 2023
okay, okay, okay,
because I started my journey then, but I didn't actually got certified until
okay.
2023. But I started making the change.
Yes,
That's when I
yeah,
started making the change. Yeah.
because I believe they have more than 80 plus thousand people now. It's
Yes.
just incredible how it is going. But the good thing is, no, if you have been following Papa John, Dr. John Maxwell, we know exactly what type of value uh,
Hmm.
you are and how you lead. So looking back then over your career,
Hmm.
what leadership lesson did practicing law teach you that you think still shape your coaching today?
I think a couple would be one of them is owning your decision and owning the
Mm,
choices that you make.
yes.
Um, Another one would have is I should say is valuing people. You
Mm,
know, I am an introvert, I must say, and if I can stay back, I can stay back.
really?
And trying to avoid people. But I have learned, it's a journey that I'm on that you've got to build relationship.
Mm,
You're going to value people, you've got to build relationship. And
yes.
that's one of the leadership lessons do that I take from law, in the sense that
Yeah.
because with law, I said, God, I'm leaving my house today,
Mm,
help me to be a blessing to somebody,
yes.
in the courts, or somebody that I'm representing. Just help me to be a blessing to them. And it's
Mm,
the same thing now with the coaching. You want to be a blessing. You want to help people make changes in their life. You want to help people move forward. And it's the
wow.
same thing with law, because it's so emotional with some aspects of it. So it's just
Yes.
really to remember that it's not only about me,
Mm,
or it's not about you. It's about the person that you're leading. Yeah.
that is really something because you've really reinvented yourself multiple times throughout your career, right? Being a lawyer, a coach, but
Mhm.
also a teacher, a
Mhm.
trainer, and
Mhm.
you're also a best selling author and all of that.
Well,
So what and because you also have a terrific course which I was actually able to take this last couple of days, so you really do a lot. So what advice would you give leaders who feel called to a new season but are
mhm.
afraid to make the leap, kind of like how you felt after COVID in 2020? What would you tell someone?
Well, thank you for the best-selling title. I'm not quite there yet, but
Well, you cannot get
but
there.
I thank you. I thank you for forecasting it, please.
Yes.
And hopefully after this podcast, yes, I'll become
Well,
a best-selling title.
yeah, the thing is, we've already helped a couple of people become at least Amazon best-selling authors, so you are going to be next.
Well, there
So
you
I
go.
claim it.
I am hoping. I know I totally forgot your question.
Yeah. So yeah, it was what advice would you give to someone
Yes,
who feel
reinvent.
called
Yeah.
to a new season but are afraid to make the leap?
Mhm.
Kind of like where you were maybe in
Yeah.
2020 after
Yeah.
COVID.
Mhm. So, you can either reinvent yourself voluntarily or it's going to be forced on you.
Mm,
Okay. And even though I wanted to make some changes, I wasn't doing it. And
mm,
like I said, it started in 2018, and then COVID comes around. And it begins to the point where I was practicing family law at one point. And I found myself in the parking lot of the courthouse, sitting in my car crying. I ended up calling my sister too, one of the occasion. And I was at the point, Lorna, you're either gonna take care of your mental health and get
mm.
out, or it's gonna kill you. You have to make some
Wow.
changes. And that's also where the VIP framework started to evolve. It didn't quite have the picture, and all the answers, but I had to stop and look at my values in
Mm,
terms of what I want to do. So if based on the changes in your life, not everybody can reinvent themselves, as you say, because you've got responsibility. So you may be in a job that you really find out that it's not aligned with what you want to do, but at the same time, if you've got a kid in college that you've got to support,
mm-hmm.
now is not the time to be thinking about, well, it's out of alignment,
Yes.
I'm going to do something else, because you've got to make decision. So your
Mm,
circumstances sometimes will help you decide, what's important to you at this season in your life.
yes.
But I can tell you, if you decide that you do want to make a move, you're going to have to stop focusing on the outside world. you know
Mm,
know the things that are important to you, who
yes.
is relying on you, the values you want to make, the people you want to impact. So those are some of the things that you have to stop and look at. You've got to look at the cost. What is
Mm,
it costing me to stay the same, as opposed to what is it costing me really to make a change and do something else.
yes.
Mhm.
Wow. Now, from what you just shared, if I may, so you were outside of the family court. You said
Mhm.
in your car, you called your
Mhm.
sister, and you felt like
Mhm.
crying at that moment, and you
I
really
didn't
felt
feel
like,
like crying. I was crying.
wow. Can you maybe, if we can go back there, what
Mhm.
other emotion hit you at that time?
You know what? Failure. That's something that came to mind. The fact that I probably didn't speak up
Mm,
that I should have. Practicing law, it's a lovely thing, but it
yes.
has some difficulty. And sometimes when you're actually in the courthouse, or you're actually in the courtroom and you are speaking to the
Mm,
bench, so to speak, or those individuals that wear the robes, you've got to be careful just how you say things. And
yes.
and I really wasn't one. I've learned, and over the years, sometimes you've got to know how to say things. I'm
Mm,
not always perfect in terms of what I say, um, but sometimes at that point in the courthouse, I didn't feel like um, I was given the opportunity to
mm-hmm.
represent my client to the fullest. So failure, why am I doing this,
Yes.
what kind of benefit, so there was a lot of things running through my mind.
Yes.
And one of the things that probably I was more upset about is that I felt I did not have a choice, because I didn't see a way out, another way to go. I have responsibility,
Mm,
so I need to work. I need to get a paycheck. And I think that was more of a problem than just the circumstances of what happened that day.
see.
But it kind of helped me to move forward. So in
Yes.
retrospect, it was a good thing. It was a good thing, Bob. So
Mm.
yeah.
Thanks again for sharing that. Did that experience affect your mental health at the time?
Yes, and like I said, and that's why I,
I decided that, you got to get out, you know, that was the end of it. That's when I changed practice area, because I was doing family law. And like I said, anybody, I don't know if there are any lawyers on listening, but if you do family law, it can be extremely emotionally draining.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
sometimes people blame you for their problems when it's
Mm.
really not your fault. And sometimes you got to understand,
Yes.
you're the closest person to them, you're dealing with. And and sometimes the bench doesn't help sometimes, because even when the bench know that one party is causing a problem, sometimes they don't really call it up, because they want to be neutral. You don't want to
Yes.
take sides.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, most definitely, not sleeping and all of that. I say, you know what? So
Wow.
and that's when I start making the change. And COVID came around, and I met Valerie Valley to lead, and yeah,
Yes.
move
Well,
on.
thank you so much for for sharing that. I think my wife wouldn't mind me sharing this. She's a teacher, and there was one school specifically she was
Hmm.
working at, and I was trying to encourage her, but she was like, "No, I have to quit this job because if I don't, I am going to die." Because
Hmm.
she was
Hmm.
under a lot of stress. Sometimes she wouldn't even be able to sleep well at night,
Hmm.
and waking up early in the morning, coming very, very late, and it was just way, way, way too
Yeah.
much. And the moment she decided to quit the job, I've never seen her happier and just light.
Yes.
Of course, she had to find something else to do, but that was really a decision she needed to make. So thanks so much for sharing that. And we're gonna
Yeah.
be talking about your book, Leadership Starts in the
Yes.
Mirror. So I feel like
Yeah.
in that one experience, you really
Hmm.
kind of are facing a mirror, looking back into your own
Hmm.
life. What did this
Hmm.
experience kind of teach you about leadership?
Well, at that point in time, leadership was not on my radar, because the first time the whole idea of leadership came to me was in 2018. I was taking a course,
Hmm.
and a bit of backstory. Before coming into law, I had worked in the bank, for several years. I worked in the bank.
Always reinventing yourself. Wow.
Yes, I worked in the bank for several years. And my last position in the bank was that of a client service manager.
Hmm.
Now, that was something I was so happy to get, that job, because it came with a title, because to be in the bank, you're black, they think you're a teller. And I
Hmm.
hated that. Anybody think I was a teller. So no, I was a manager. So I had arrived.
Yes.
I was so excited. I had this position, I had this title,
Hmm.
but I had no idea what leadership meant.
Hmm.
Okay. Because coming up in the bank, the people that I was interacting with, supervisor or bosses, they would call them at that point in time, tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. So now that I know what leadership is, they weren't a leader. I
Hmm.
wasn't a leader. And so those were the examples that I had.
Yes.
And you know what? I am not blaming them, because I had a responsibility really to take charge, take ownership of
Hmm.
my choices and my values and my growth. But I had no idea what it is.
Wow.
So when I left the bank, I said I would never be a leader again. No, I'd never do that again. I don't ever want to have to deal with people again. That's it. So went to law
Hmm.
school. 2018, I was in
Yeah.
seminary. That's another story. But I was in seminary, and one of the course, it was a mandatory course, leadership development.
Hmm.
So I had to take the course. I don't want to be a leader, okay? I had to take the course. And to show you how ignorant I was about the meaning of leadership, the professor was talking about, leadership and example. And I said, I don't ever want to be a leader. I don't ever want to be a leader. And he looked at me and he said, Lorna, everybody has to be a leader, because you have to know how to lead yourself.
Hmm.
That was where the seed was planted.
Yes.
That was when I realized that there was a difference. And that was 2018. I did
Wow.
not write the book until last year.
Man.
So as you can see, it's been a journey. That's when I realized that. And when I met Valerie
Hmm.
in 2020, via Live to Lead, and the term growth mindset, that's the first time I heard about that term, growth mindset,
Wow.
in Valerie's book, Successful Women Think Differently.
Yes.
And
Wow.
that's when things start to percolate. So yes,
That's really
it's been
powerful
a
because
journey.
the next question I'm going to ask you is: was there maybe a conversation, a book, or a mentor, or a prayer, or a moment that kind of changed everything for you? It looks like you just
It was a
answered.
series of things. It was a
Yeah.
series of thing. But
Wow.
my professor planted the seed that I've got to learn how to lead myself. And that really kind of explained a lot of the decision that I made in my life that was against my interests.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So prior to 2018, growing up, I grew up in Jamaica. So, a lot of the decisions that I made, it was because I didn't know how to lead myself. A
Yes.
lot of the decisions that I made in the bank, I didn't know how to lead myself.
Hmm.
So it's been a series of things that actually took me there. Yeah.
Wow. And what strength do you think was forged through this experience? I guess how are you different today because of what you went through? You think?
Oh my goodness. I mean, let go of my ego.
Yes.
You know, one of the things that John Maxwell talk about is that you don't have to be the smartest person in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and that is something I am trying to live on a daily basis because it was important to me not for people to think that I'm not smart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was extremely important for me. I mean, I hated school growing up, and I didn't do well. But you see, once I made it to the bank, I went to university, got a degree, and became a law. It was important for me not to fit the stereotype that people may have
Yes.
of me. Okay.
Wow.
So I had to let go of my ego, open to learn, not to be afraid of failure, even though it hurts sometimes,
Yes.
you know, but just not to think about myself so much, I'm worried about what people say. And it's a journey. I'm not perfect.
Hmm.
And that's really what started me on this coaching because
Wow.
I think that I'm not the only one. I'm sure there are other women out there like me who have gone through the same thing or going through the same thing.
That's really powerful. We are going to move on, but I think the last question I wanted to ask them: now that you've gone through this experience and you've become
Mhm,
a certified coach,
mhm.
how will this kind of shape the legacy you leave behind? Because now you are helping so many more people, especially women, but you're having quite an impact. How how is that shaping up your legacy? You think?
So legacy, that is something that it's extremely important to me, you know. Um, and that is since I came to the John Maxwell. I've always had a desire actually to help Black women, to help Black girls. And one of the things that I've done is that I've created a scholarship. It's called the Sandal Strap, where I sponsored university,
Hmm.
women in university who are in science and architecture. So that's something I'm extremely proud of that. So I'm building the legacy as I go along. But at the same time, I'm just trying to impact people,
Mm-hmm.
to add value to them when I see them. I don't always get it perfect, but that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm not worried about what I have to give them when it comes to material things because we're gonna go and leave that behind.
True.
But John said, legacy is not what you leave for someone, it's what you leave in them,
Hmm.
right?
That's
And
powerful.
that is what I try to do. That is what I try to do with my coaching. I know develop a love for the next generation. Initially when I started my coaching, I wanted to focus on women 50 plus because
Hmm.
I went through such a difficult time at that season in my life.
Yes.
And Rory Vader, I don't know if you know Rory Vader, he had spoken at John Maxwell too. He has the book Wealthy and Well Known. And he said, you're best positioned to help the person you once were.
Hmm.
So, started focusing on women, 50 plus. I said, yeah, because I've been through such a difficult season. That's what I want to do. But
Yes.
another Maxwell individual, having a conversation, and you said, well, you want to help them before they get there, And I
Hmm.
said, that makes sense. You know, if I can help another woman not go through the
What
same thing
to
that I went through.
Yeah.
Let's get her before she get there. Don't wait until she's there. Say, okay, let me pick you up now that you fall down.
Hmm.
I want to prevent you from falling.
Yes.
Okay. I want to let you know some of the things that I've learned, some of
Mm.
the mistakes that I've made along the way. So
Wow.
building a legacy, that's extremely important to me, as I move forward to try and impact, those I come in contact with.
Wow, that is really powerful. So, like we said at the beginning, we are both Maxwell leadership certified coaches. How did John Maxwell teaching influence your leadership philosophy today?
Well, I think it kind of take me to another level because, he defined
Yes.
leadership as influence. And that's really true. You're either going to influence for the bad or for the good. And
Mm.
if you really stop and think about it, how are you making somebody else's life better? We all want to reach to the top, but then as John said, you reach to the top and you're the only one there.
Mm.
Really, what benefit is that?
Yes.
And do you want to lead because you have a title? And there
Mm.
is a difference between, just having authority
Yes.
and just having someone really trust you as a leader. And that's what I want to find myself in a situation. I want to have someone say, you know what, I can trust Lorna.
That's
That's
powerful
what I want.
because that's the ego again,
Yeah,
being
yeah,
the title
that's the
and all
ego.
that.
And I mean, we all have it,
Yes.
And I said, stop and think about your motives for why
Mm.
you want, to be a leader. Why do you want to be in
Wow.
charge? Why do you want to be a manager? Why do you want to have the title? So you've got to stop and check your motives. Yeah.
Wow, that is so powerful. Well, I want to talk about your book. And by the way, Daniel, who's watching live from YouTube, says we speak best-selling into existence. Bestseller. I say amen. So
Thank
let's
you.
talk about your best-selling book. Your book that's becoming a bestseller. Leadership
Mhm.
starts in the mirror, leading me first to lead
Mhm.
others better. A
Mhm.
framework for leaders to achieve personal growth and empower team performance. Why did this book have to be written? You wrote this book last year, I believe. Why? Why did you have to write it?
You know what? I was in a event with another Maxwell person from Copy and Content. Now
Mhm.
Jim Edwards,
Yes.
and Jim kind of say what Jim wants to say, right?
Hmm.
Jim mouth doesn't have any filter,
True.
but he's a lovely guy, lovely man. Um, and I really had no desire to write a book because I didn't think it was in me. Number one, I don't think I'm a good writer. I mean, I should not be saying that, if I'm trying to sell the book. But I want to be honest. So it's not something that was in me to do. But I
Mm.
started to think about my story,
Yes.
right? And I wanted to get that out in a way that people can understand.
Mm.
So it's not an eyebrow book, it's a really simple, framework book, something that people can follow.
Yes.
And I realized that I didn't know to lead myself. And I know there are a lot of women out there who are middle managers position,
Hmm.
leading a team, and they don't know how to lead themselves because they're worried about targets, meeting the
Yes.
deadline, matrix,
Mm.
somebody else in the C-suite make the decision
Yes.
and they have to implement it. So I know there is a lot of Lorna running out there who are
Mm.
in leadership who don't know how to do that, who don't know how to lead themselves. And it's not only in the workplace, because as I
Yeah.
said, this also, personal life, you realize you don't make the right choices,
Mm.
you don't take ownership of your values. Because of that, you cannot impact people,
Wow.
right? So that's how it all came about in terms of said,
Man,
you know what, let me just kind of put this down on paper.
that's powerful. Wow. So, why do you believe so many leadership failures, based on your book, can be traced back to a lack of self leadership?
So I want to be clear. I don't think that all failures are a result of self leadership.
Hmm.
Okay, because things happen, and you use COVID as a perfect example.
Yes.
You can plan as well as you can plan, but there
Hmm.
are events that outside your control.
Yes.
Okay. And some, they call it black swan events,
Mm.
so those are things you cannot predict. They're outside of your control, right? So that's not necessarily a leadership failure.
Yes.
Okay. But there are other things that are within your control, right? White swan events that I said, things that you can plan. And I
Mm.
think with some leaders, they rely on their past success. Well, you know, at my last job, I crushed it. I met all my
Yes.
targets, so I'm going to do well this time.
Mm.
But they don't realize that the circumstances have changed. We're living in a time that is really unsettled. Here in Canada, we're dealing with tariffs and all of that, and things are changing. So, as a leader who was successful in the past, you can't necessarily rely on those things to keep you successful.
True.
And that's when you're going to have to stop and think, okay,
Mm.
so based on what I'm going through now, what are my values now? My values are the same, but I'm going to have to change my method. Who
Wow.
are the people that I'm going to be impacting? Because it's not only about my ego.
Yes.
I'm successful in what I'm doing, but there is somebody else at the end who I need to be concerned about.
Mm.
So I think that, those are some of the reasons, that some leaders, when it comes to self leadership, we're so focused on ourselves.
Yes.
Are we going to get ahead? My success, that it doesn't really translate with the team. And if you
Mm.
can't build that trust with the team, they're not going to stand behind you when
Yes.
things are falling apart.
Wow.
You're not going to have them.
Actually, two questions came to mind because the title of your book, when you say leadership starts in the mirror, you say
Hmm.
leading me first, leading
Hmm.
me first. What do you mean by that? What is the practical way of doing that? Talking about self leadership.
I think for me, leading me first is really taking the discipline ownership of your values. Values are so important. The choices that you're making and your personal growth. you know
Yes.
Personal growth is so important. So if you're going to impact people, you're going to have to take ownership of those three things,
Mm.
because those are the things that are going to set the direction in where you're going, so that you can impact the people that you need to impact, right? Not everybody wants self leadership, so
Yes.
be clear, it's not for everybody, because there are some people who want success and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want, that is fine. But I think it's important for you to be clear. And that's why I said, if you want to be a manager, you've got to be clear. If you want to be in charge of people and leading people, you've got to be clear why you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do it because you want to positively impact them? You really believe that you can add value. You really believe that the
Yes.
people who you're leading, you can help multiply it, or you're seeing these people as a stepping stone to
Mm.
where you want to go. When I was in the bank, I wanted to be a manager because those people were a stepping stone for where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And it was a total disaster. It was
Mm.
a disaster for them, and it was a disaster for me.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about that just a little bit because you mentioned trust earlier. Let's say somebody's listening, they have a brand new job, they're a new manager, but they don't have a lot of time to build that trust, but they really need to do it as quickly as possible before
Mhm.
they really face a lot of challenges at work. What would you advise them? How do you build that trust as quickly as you can?
Well, you know what? Trust come with time. And if individuals don't have, as you would say, a lot of time, people can sense. You're going to have to be authentic in terms of
Hmm.
what you say. So your actions really have to speak, follow
Yes.
what you're saying. Okay. You don't have the luxury of years to deal with these people, but you're going to really have to be authentic in terms of what you are saying,
Mm.
so that people can say, okay, I mean, yeah, maybe I can give her the benefit of the doubt, because
Yes.
I've had a
Wow.
conversation with her, and just the way she come across, or the way he comes across, there
Hmm.
is something a bit authentic about them. You also have to realize, and leave your ego at the door, realize you don't have all the answers.
Yes.
So for those that you're trying to lead, sometimes you're going to need for them to take the lead. That's one of the best way you can, build trust, is forget about the title, but for those who you are supposed to be leading, give
Yes.
them the opportunity also to display their leadership skill. You know,
Hmm.
leave your ego at the door.
Yes. Here's
Don't
the
feel
ego.
threatened. Yeah, yes. Sometimes it's really about ego. We don't want to feel embarrassed. We're worried about other people gonna say.
Yes.
Rory Vader said, you experience fears because you're thinking about yourself. How am I
Hmm.
gonna come across? And we do that.
Yes.
I'm talking to you about the podcast, and I wanted to make sure, okay, I do this right and I do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, am I thinking about the audience when I'm worried about how I look? No. If
Yes.
you're thinking about your audience, you're not worried about how you
Hmm.
look. You're worried about, okay, how am I going to reach the people
Yes.
that I'm talking to? You know,
Wow.
how am I going to make sure I add value to them? So, as a leader, you don't have the luxury of time. Don't worry about yourself. Just worry about the people that you're leading. Okay, with the short period of time that I have, how can I
Mhm.
add value to these people that I'm leading?
Wow. That is powerful. So being authentic and really valuing people.
Hmm.
Because I've been in so many companies where they say their core value is to value people and all of that, but
Hmm.
they don't really mean it. And
Yeah.
the reason why they don't mean it is how they treat their employees is very, very clear. They do not. But it looks good on the wall though. It's
Yeah.
a nice
Yes.
value
Of
to have.
course. Of course.
But
Yes, it does.
based on what you just said again, the title of your book,
Hmm.
Leadership Start in the Mirror. So it looks
Hmm.
like you looking in the mirror. It's really about self awareness, but also awareness of others. What do you think are some of the biggest blind spots leaders have when they evaluate themselves? When you look in the mirror.
I think sometimes we believe the press clippings, because we surround ourselves with people who think like us and tell us how great we are.
Hmm.
Okay. And sometimes we kind of believe that. Sometimes we're afraid to ask for feedback. And you have to be careful also about feedback, because not everyone who gives you feedback is doing it in your best interest.
Hmm.
Okay. So, yes, it's good to have feedback, but sometimes you've got to take it with a grain of salt,
So discernment.
from some people, because not everyone has your best interest. They may
Yes.
start and say, I don't want to offend you, but,
Hmm.
and well, don't bother offend me.
Yes.
Just keep it to yourself. So there's something.
Hmm.
But it comes back again, be humble. Realize that you're not perfect. So be
Yes.
willing to evaluate what you have done, you know, and
Hmm.
think about how is the person on the other side
Yes.
feeling based on what you have done. I
Hmm.
remember a situation up until this day, and I wish I can interact with this lawyer again. But I went to an event and I was not having a good day. And unfortunately for her, she sat beside me.
Hmm.
And she was trying to have a conversation with me. And I was so rude with her, because I was not having a good day, and I was just not communicating with her, you
Hmm.
know. And it took a while, years later, because of John, to realize that you have to treat people with respect.
Yes.
So you're looking in the mirror, you're going to have to be honest and
Hmm.
evaluate what you have done. Don't beat yourself up. Okay,
Yes.
so just say, you know what, this wasn't right, I'm going to try and make it better. So from
Wow.
what I did today, how can I make tomorrow better? You don't want to make the same mistake over and over. So you've got to be
Right.
honest. It starts with self-awareness that something is not right.
Yes.
you
Wow. That's really powerful. So you talk about humility,
Mhm,
honesty, integrity, character, but also empathy.
mhm.
Wow. So for those who aspire to lead, how can they identify when they are completely out of alignment with their values?
And that's where one other thing I did earlier, I had a series I call Get Off the Nail series
Mm-hmm.
that I had. And there is this discomfort. Okay, you know what you want to do because you know what your values are, you know the things that are important to you, but there is this discomfort that you feel, and you don't want to move because it's fear.
Mm,
If you're getting up every day doing something that is eating at your soul, it's not in alignment with what you want to do.
yes.
If you are getting up every day, you are barking at those people you're supposed to be leading, there is something that is out of alignment.
Mm,
If your emotional intelligence, there are times that you go off, yes, but if
yes.
you find that you're a lightning rod, you've got to realize, okay, there is something wrong here.
Wow.
If you take a position for the wrong reason,
Mm-hmm.
eventually it is gonna happen. It's nice to get paid, it's nice to have a job, but at the same time, the money is not gonna make you come in alignment with what you need to do. There are some people who can operate in misalignment and don't have a problem with it, right? But it's
Wow.
not gonna give you the peace that you're looking for.
Man, that's really powerful because that leads me into your VIP framework, right? Values, impact, and people. How
Mhm.
did that evolve?
Um, Part of my journey, and it has evolved over the last 8 years,
Wow.
because sitting there going through what I was going through, I had to ask myself, what is important to me?
Mm-hmm.
What are my values? Why exactly am I doing what I wanted? I'm doing. Why is it important to me? And also, what's the change that I want to make? How do I
Mm,
want to change people's life? How do I want to make life better for people? Okay, yes, so I'm practicing law. Yeah, how is that making others' life better? So I had to think about that too. And at the end,
mm,
who are the people at the end that
that's
is going
powerful.
to impact? How am I changing those people's life, those individuals' life?
Mm,
So that's where the values, impact, and
people.
people came from, the VIP framework. And it's a framework that you can use in your personal life.
Yes.
It's a framework that you can use in leadership. You're
Mm,
leading a team, that is something that you can use too. There are two frameworks that I work with. One is the STATS, which is stagnation,
yes.
transition, aspiration, and significance. And that is more likely more for corporation, using it in a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
But the VIP framework, use it in your life. The values are the filter through which you
Yes.
make your decisions. So you're making a decision, going through different seasons in your life and changing. The values are the filter
Wow.
that you're going to filter your decision through to make sure that you're making the right decision.
That is really powerful because it reminds me of what Papa John taught us, right? He says,
Mhm,
I have great value,
mhm,
but I value people and I add value to people. So
mhm.
that's your value and that's your
Yes,
people and the impact. So it's a VIP framework right
yes.
there. Why is that so powerful when people don't just understand it, but actually put it into practice?
Because you know what? It is so simple.
Yeah.
It is so simple, and it gives you the peace of mind.
Yes.
You know, it
Hmm.
gives you the peace of mind. Yeah, the decision may not turn out the way you want it to turn out, but the fact of the matter is that, you know what? Because you make that decision based on your values,
Mm.
you are not going to regret that part. You
Wow.
will not regret it because it is so simple, and it is a guideline, it is a compass, tell
Mm.
you where you start, because every day we're faced with a mountain of decisions that we have to make, and it gives you a starting point.
Man, that's really
Where do
powerful.
I start in terms of evaluating how I move forward?
Man, have you ever dealt with a client? They come to you and you coach them and you tell them something so simple, but they're like, "No, this is not complicated enough. You need to tell me something much more complicated." It's like it's too simple. I don't want to do it. I don't know why people always try to do something that's very,
I
very
know, I know.
super
It's too
simple.
easy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That cannot work because it's too easy. But honestly, when you really stop and you think about it and you start to filter it out, you realize, you know what? Yeah.
Mm.
Because
So
if you think of yourself as a leader, you want to impact people.
yes,
You're
yes, always
building
for people.
relationship. Leadership is influence.
Mm.
At the end of the day, who are you influence? You know?
That's really powerful. So, if every listener looked in the mirror tonight, right, after they
Mhm.
read your book, what question should they ask themselves?
Um, it depends on the season in their life, but I would say one of the questions that I ask myself is, what did I do today
Mm.
that could have done better?
Wow, it's powerful.
Okay. And I don't ruminate over it. You know, John said, give yourself 24 hours to celebrate, give yourself 24 hours to beat yourself up.
Yes.
But, how would I change
Mm.
what I have done today, tomorrow? I've got a new 24 hours coming
Yes.
tomorrow. How am I going to make that difference?
So knowing what I know now, what
Yes.
could I do? Wow, that's
How am I
powerful.
going to make that difference?
Wow. So was there a chapter that was more challenging for you to write?
Um, I think probably the one about growth, um, in terms of investing in your growth, because it is expensive.
Yes. But it's really expensive
First,
not to, isn't it?
personal growth is expensive, but I think also in that chapter, that's where I also had the two frameworks,
Yes.
just in terms of moving forward. So
Hmm.
it was kind of difficult in that respect, but I think the entire book, as just in terms of looking back on it now, and I am gonna have to update it as I move
Yes.
forward, but the entire book was such a learning for me,
Mm.
in terms of, because I'm kind of telling people how I screw up,
Yes.
you know,
Well,
and what not
I,
to do.
I think it makes people really relate to you. This way they know that
Yeah,
you're not a fake and they can
yeah.
definitely learn from it.
Oh, good
And it's
Lord,
going to make
no.
it easier for your next book, right? Uh, so the book we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is Leadership Starts in the Mirror. And everybody listening should get a copy. It's available on Amazon, everywhere books are available. Last question I'm going to ask about the book. Man, we're almost running out of time. We just got started. Uh,
Oh,
Let me ask you this. If someone reads your book, what is the one lesson, the one concept you really want them to get out with if they can only remember one thing?
from the Bible, you reap what you sow.
Yes.
So the leadership, the decision that you're making today,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to reap the reward tomorrow,
Mm,
and it does compound. Okay, so
powerful.
make sure that the decision that you're making today, you're thinking ahead. How is this decisions going to affect me 25 years, 30 years from now? How is
Mm.
that going to affect the people that I'm trying to impact 25, 30 years from now?
Wow, that is so powerful. You did mention get off the nail segment. I do want to talk about that before we end today. It's a course that you have available, and I think I have permission to say this. Everybody is listening right now. Get a copy of a book, and you're gonna get access to this course absolutely free. This course could literally change your life. And I know originally you really marketed this thing for women, but
Yes,
I took your course. I'm not a woman. I think it helped me. So I think anybody can get the book, read it, and be
it
helped.
is.
Yeah. Okay. So
That's true. And like I said, I'm trying, I build this because I said I was my perfect client.
yes,
Okay. So that's why, but anybody,
that's the
because,
avatar.
there are a lot of men out there who are lying on nails.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
anyone can do it. Yes.
Okay, before we talk about that, I think we have our first live question from LinkedIn. Okay,
Mhm.
then just say when a new manager or a leader is walking into a tough environment with low trust and a lot of concern on the table in their first 30, 60, 90 days, what values and action start speaking as loudly as their words that need alignment? Hmm.
Well, that's a tough question because, again, I would say that it comes back to the situation that you're walking into.
Mm-hmm.
So I think within the first 30 days, you really want to get to know the people
Yes.
that you are going to be leading with. Okay. You want to be making decisions based on not only what is expected in the C suite or
Mm-hmm.
the targets or whatever you have to make, but you want to make decisions based on the people that you're working with in terms of communicating with them and
Mm.
let them know what's going on. Communication is so important in terms of going
Yes.
on because a lot of times people don't know things are done in a vacuum. And managers sometimes out of fear, you don't want to communicate, and what happens is that
Mm.
people make up their own stories.
Wow.
So get to know your people within the first 30 days. Try and build some kind of communication with them, and
That's how
by
you build
then you would,
trust, isn't it?
yes, and by then you're coming around in terms of 90 days, you would kind of have an idea, okay, what exactly am I dealing with? Because
Mm.
especially if you take over a situation where there were some challenges, you may not be able to fix everything. Okay. So I said before, you want to keep your
Mm.
values the same. So your method of how you attack the challenges that you are facing will have to change. Okay.
Wow.
So you're going to have to be flexible. You
Yes.
know, you're going to have to ensure that you're open. You have to be authentic. As much as you can, communicate with those that you are leading.
Mm.
Okay? And don't take things personally. Leave your ego at the door, because it is so
Yes.
easy, to stop and, you know, take the failures personally. And it's not.
Wow. I think this is a good segue to talk about Get Off Vanilla. Can you tell us kind of the origin story where that came from?
You know what? I think it was Les Brown
Hmm.
originally talk about Get Off the Nail, but that's not where I got it. I got it from Darren Hardy. Darren
Wow.
Hardy, yes.
He's one of my
Yes.
heroes.
Oh, you have the compound effect too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I listened to Darren Hardy. And at that time, I was going through a difficult time where fear,
Hmm.
okay, I'm comfortable. I don't want, the pain is not there. The pain is there, but I don't want to move. So
Yes.
he told the story of the dog lying on the nail. And I'm like, oh my God, I am that dog. I
Mm.
am the one that is lying on the nail.
Wow.
And that's where the series came from. And I realized there's a lot of us out there who are lying on nails, okay? And we stay on the nail because it doesn't hurt that bad.
Mm.
So we get up and we shift a little, okay? We shift a little and we move a little. And that's where the
Yes.
series came from in terms of getting off the nail, because we are in
Wow.
situation. And I also think about relationship. You may be in a relationship. It could be work, it could be personal, where it is causing you
Mm.
pain and discomfort. And out of fear or for whatever reason, you decide that you're going to stay there because it's not that bad. So that's where the Get Off the Nail series came from.
Well, but I guess I must ask. A lot of people are very smart and logical, and maybe they understand it
Mhm.
in their mind. But why do smart people, even accomplished people, stay stuck even when they know they need change?
The security. It's
Mm.
easy to stay where you are because this is what you know.
Wow.
And it also can be insecurity too, right?
Yes.
You are an accomplished leader in your department that you are. You meet all your target. Another position open. Well, you're not quite sure that you can do it. So you
Mm.
know what? Yeah, I'm not too happy here, but I am successful here. So I don't want to move. Okay.
Wow.
So a lot of accomplished leader, it's fear. It's worried about what other people gonna say. If I take that or make that change and I'm not successful.
Hmm.
So we stay where we are because that's what we know. That's what
Yes.
we know. We may be miserable in it, but that's what we know. So
That's
we sit in the pain and we shift on the nail from time to time, but that's what we know. So we stay there.
so. That's the first session of your class. Get off the nail, but then you get into what we've talked about a lot: growth mindset, which you said
Mhm,
already made a difference in your life. So
mhm.
you teach that past success can sometimes become a limitation. Can you explain that?
Yeah, because with someone we think about it, and like I said, I knew nothing about growth mindset, okay, at that point in time. But for a leader who has been successful all the times at what they have done, they may find that they don't push themselves to
Hmm.
do something else because they may think that they can't do it. Okay. This is what I know. I've learned this. This is what I know. So I'm going to stick with this. I'm not going to try something else because I'm not sure
Hmm.
that I can do it. Or it could be a leader who is so insecure
Yes.
That because someone who is insecure is someone with a fixed mindset. So fixed mindset. They don't want to be challenged. Okay. So they want to
Mm.
stay, they want to be around people who are going to tell them how good they are. But if you've got a growth mindset, you're willing to try, you're willing to fail. Okay. It
Yes.
may be difficult, but you're willing to put yourself out there so that at least you can move forward, so that you can help somebody else.
Hmm. So it looks like fear really can have quite a gripping effect, even on people who are experienced leader, doesn't it?
Yes. And, I'm speaking, from personal
Yes.
experience. It's a journey, and this, I'm not saying that I've totally overcome. Obviously there are things that you worry about and you're concerned about, but yes, fear keeps you stuck. Fear, comparison, worry about what other people gonna say, you
Mm.
know it keeps you stuck.
So
It
for
keeps you
those
stuck.
who are going to be taking your course, what do you advise they do when they feel that fear? They know they need to do it, but they
Mhm,
feel paralyzed by fear. Either
mhm,
fear of failing, sometimes even fear of being successful, believe it or not. But
mhm.
what should they do to overcome?
Well, the first thing you're going to have to do is make the decision that you want to get off. And if you
Yes.
make that decision, the next thing you're going to have to do is look at the cost.
Mm.
Because believe it or not, there is a cost lying on the nail. There's a
Yes.
cost staying where you are. So
Mm.
you're going to have to stop and look at, what is this costing me by staying where I am? Okay.
Wow.
Whose life am I not changing? What am I not able to do because
Yes.
I am staying here? It is costing you something.
Mm. So
That pain
powerful.
is comfortable, but it's
Yes.
also costing you something. So you're going to have to make the decision, and then you're going to have to look at the costs
Wow, that's really
to stay
powerful.
there.
Because mommy, the instance I mentioned, my wife, where she wouldn't sleep very well, she would have some issues with her mental health, and sometimes that could even manifest as a physical
Mhm,
symptom too. And is it worth it? Why? Okay, and then the last session in your course is about self care. Why is self
mhm.
care so important?
Oh my goodness. I talk about, sitting in the parking lot and crying. But if you are not in a good place as a leader mentally, you can't lead others. You can't
Mm,
impact others. Your emotional health is shot. Um, your physical health is shot. Okay.
mm,
So as a leader, I look at self-care as one of the competency. It is so
yes.
important, both physically and mentally, in terms of your self-care, in terms of leading people. So
Mm,
if you're going to accomplish great things, you have to be in a good place health
yes.
wise.
Wow.
And self-care takes on a lot of things. We're talking about financial, emotionally,
Yes.
physically, socially, building relationship. I told
Mm,
you before that I'm an introvert, and I had tried to avoid people, and that is something I now have to try and get out of my skin, because I
yes.
realize that it is not good for me.
Wow.
You see, so it's extremely
That's
important that you take care of yourself.
That is really, really, really insightful because I know people when you're younger usually just want to focus on work and work, 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 and you're chasing that success, but eventually that's gonna break you if you don't take care of yourself,
Exactly.
right? Like even when you get on the airplane, they always say if there is an incident, put the mask on yourself first and then
Yeah.
take care of everybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Mhm.
Wow. Okay, so everybody who's listening, again, get a copy of a book. Everybody needs to get a copy everywhere books are sold. Leadership starts in the mirror, and you're gonna get for free, absolutely free. She's gonna give you access to this wonderful course, which I believe has really the potential to change your life. This is so powerful. I guess the last question I'm gonna ask about this, and sorry, we're already out of time. Can you give me like five more minutes? Do you have
That's
to?
fine.
Okay.
Yes.
If someone is listening right now and they realize, okay, I am really sitting on a nail right now,
Mhm.
what do you tell them? What should they do in the next 24 hours?
Well, I think I said it comes back to me. Just really assess what the cost is.
Yes.
You're going to have to make that decision,
Mm.
right? Do you really want to change your circumstances? You know,
Wow.
and just look at the costs and make the decision that, what, yes, I
Hmm.
am going to have to do something. I'm going to have to get off the nail.
Has the meaning of success changed throughout your life?
Um, you know what? I stopped chasing success because, as John said, you need to get to significance.
Yes.
And it was Mark Cole that I first heard him put it in words that I really could explain. He
Hmm.
said, success is what happens to you, significance is what happens through you.
Wow.
And for me,
Say that again. Say that again. That's powerful.
success is what happens to you, significance is what happens through you.
Wow.
Oh yeah, you're reaching somebody else. And I talk about the scholarship that I've created in
Yes.
terms of with Southern Strap. Yeah, I'm a lawyer, but how can I use what I have or what
Mm.
I've accomplished to help somebody else to
Wow.
move forward? There's nothing wrong with success, but if you want to impact others and change people's life, you have to move from success because success is personal
Mm.
to you. But
That's
how are
powerful.
you making somebody else's life different? Which is the bottom line.
From
I think we should
success.
all be striving to do to add value to people.
Wow. From success to significance. That is really
Yes.
powerful. How do you want people to remember you 25 years from now? Describe your impact.
I hope they will remember me as someone with integrity, someone with hope, who did her best to add values and change people's life for the better.
Hmm. Powerful.
That's what I
Powerful.
want them to remember.
All right. In addition to your book, you've already mentioned a couple of books here. One book you mentioned was Successful Women Think Differently. Why should
Mhm.
my audience read this book?
You know what? I just love the book because, like I said, it's my turning point because it really, let women know that we think differently from men,
Mhm.
in terms of that. And I think Valerie did a really good job in terms of motivating people, in terms of inspiring people, sorry,
Yes.
breaking down the whole issue of a growth mindset and fixed mindset, how to not get paralyzed within decisions that you have to make. So I just think it's an excellent book. At least I found it to be an excellent book, just in terms of help me to move forward.
Hmm. That's really powerful. In Toronto, you don't speak French, do you?
No, I
Yes.
don't. I
Okay.
said I'm going to learn Spanish,
I
but
know.
no.
I know. In Quebec, you do. So we have someone. I don't know where he's coming from, but he's talking in French. He's probably originally from French Africa. But I'm gonna
Okay.
translate for you. It says,
Yeah.
uh, "Coaching without knowledge, uh, um, le coaching sans la connaissance de la vocation." Okay, so can you coach without being an expert in the field of the people that you are coaching? Is that possible? Do you have to be a leader in their field in order to coach people?
Oh no. Oh please. And you're coming to coaching, you're not coming as an expert.
Yes.
Oh no, 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 no. I mean, coaching really is to help people get from where they are to where they
Powerful.
need to go. So you're not an expert at all. They are leading their life and they have it in them, and you're just there as a coach to inspire them. You
So
can relate to their story sometime,
yes.
okay, and obviously you're asked their permission, to step out of the coach's role to say,
Mm,
I
powerful.
understand, but no, you don't have to be an expert at all, trust me,
And
no.
I just checked his LinkedIn page. So Shami Kasongo is coming from Africa, the Democratic
Okay.
Republic of the Congo. That's why I say
Okay,
I really love this technology. I'm talking to you from San Francisco, and we have people all around the world who are listening.
that is amazing,
Yeah,
that is so
quite
amazing.
amazing. So there is another book that you mentioned. Why should my audience read this book, Wealthy and Well Known?
That's about branding, and it's not branding as we think of branding, but
Mhm.
is really how do you go about building your reputation, because
Mm,
that's where he takes it from the start of a reputation.
yes.
So it's not about branding yet. As first, and I said, I'm not gonna get it because I'm not into branding and stuff like. But it's about your reputation. How do
Mm,
you go about building your reputation? And he does a
wow.
very good job, just in terms of breaking it down. You
Man,
know,
and the repetition is really what you use to also build trust with your team.
and that's why there you come back again full
Yeah.
circle. That's how
Wow.
you come back to in terms of building trust. Yes.
Wow. Okay. And then last book you mentioned, The Compound Effect by my mentor, Darren Hardy. He used to be the publisher for the Success magazine by.
I
um,
know, I know. I read Compound Effect several years ago, and then meet upon Don on Dan Hardy podcast, and then I start listening to him, and I mean, he's another one that just tells you straight, okay,
yes.
if you listen to him when he talks, and yeah, because yeah, it does compound.
Mm-hmm.
It does compound, and that's why I talk about the decisions you make today. You stop and you think about it. How is that gonna, affect you? And just making little changes in your habit
Wow. Okay.
makes a difference.
We are about to end the podcast. So, as I'm ending, what is one daily habit that makes you a better leader?
I would say forgiving myself,
Hmm.
you know, when I make a mistake, because it can keeps you from growing if you just sit there
Wow.
and don't evaluate it from a place that, okay, fine, yeah, I screw up this time and I really screw up really bad. How can I make this
Mm.
different tomorrow?
Wow. Man, that takes a lot of awareness and honesty too. Integrity for sure.
Well, that's how you're going to move forward. If you're not honest,
Mm.
you're
Yeah.
going to repeat the same mistake over and over.
Mm.
And believe me,
So learn from a
I've been
mistake.
there.
Powerful. So as we are ending this, one question I like to ask: if you could go back and give a piece of advice to your 17-year-old self, standing at the edge of this incredible career you've had, you were a lawyer, a banker, a coach, an author, and all of that. What would you say to 17-year-old Lorna?
It gets better.
It gets better.
It,
I like
it,
that.
it, it gets better.
Hmm.
You have screwed up really bad. You've made some bad choices, but it gets better.
Wow.
Because 17 coming out of high school, like I said, the only reason I graduated from high school is because they didn't want me there for another year. you know.
Wow.
So it gets
Gets
better.
better.
It gets better.
Powerful. Okay, as we come to the end, what can we do to add value back to you?
It would be nice to to buy my book, but you know what? Just go out there and try and do good for somebody else.
Hmm.
Okay, just try and lift somebody else up, because people, I think it's Brian Brown who said, people are doing the best they can.
Yes.
And we're really going through difficult times now. And sometimes you don't know what someone is going through by just looking at them. So just try to, give some compassion to someone, add value to them. You may be having a rough day too, but at the same time, just try and add value to someone. You never know how you're going to change their life
Yes.
for the best.
And if someone wanted to hire you as a speaker, a leadership coach, or facilitator, how do they reach you?
Please, you can check me up on LinkedIn, or you can go to my website, equipmenttothrive.com.
Fantastic. All right. So as we come to the end, and thanks so much for giving us a little bit of extra time today. As we close, I wanted to ask you, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
Oh, you know what? I love geography, as a kid, and I don't know where I could have taken that. Law was the next thing, because, growing up in Jamaica, either a lawyer, a doctor, and the doctor thing wasn't just happening for me. But so I love geography growing up. Don't know where that would have taken me, but law was the next thing.
Well, at least you
That
are a lawyer now. So
yeah.
congratulations. What are three adjectives describing you as a child?
What is the what?
Three adjective describing you as a child.
Describing me as a child?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as a as a child growing up in primary school, pretty mouthy.
Okay. Two more.
I wouldn't say I can't think of it. Some of them is not things you can say in polite company, but
okay, one more.
and that's why sassy.
Okay.
And that's why
What
kind.
about what about as an adult?
as an adult, speaker mind, someone who is hopeful, someone
Mhm.
who is always willing to help,
Okay.
someone who is stuck up. They sometimes they say, I don't know if stuck up, full of themselves.
Yes.
Even though that's not a good thing. Think I'm standoffish and stuff like that. So,
Okay.
but it's because I'm quiet.
Yeah.
I'm like I said, I'm a very reserved
Man,
person, and unless I know you,
you are very, very honest. My goodness. It's like you don't want to make yourself look better than you actually are.
oh good lord,
That
no,
is that is a great
I'm too
value
old
to
for
have.
that. I'm
That
too
is
old for
wonderful.
that. No.
So I always like to end on a positive note. So one question I have for you, since you've been coaching for a while, after coaching leaders, entrepreneur, executive, and professional for as long as you've been doing it, what have you learned about the human potential that most people still don't understand about themselves?
We get in our way.
Hmm.
Our mind tells us what we can do, and it gets in the way.
That is so
That's what
cool.
it is.
And why do you think even a coach should have a coach?
Oh, good. I am telling you, I've got a couple because you never know. You think you know everything,
Yes.
and you realize just in terms of
That's
talking to people.
humility again.
Yeah, just realize in terms of talking to people.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is powerful. All right, I want to end on a very positive note. Again, thank you so much for giving us extra time today. Something you are feeling optimistic about these days.
Um, I would say the next generation. I just started, working with some of them in that respect, as I mentioned, in terms of with um, my scholarship foundation
Yes.
initiative, and they are really, really pumped.
Mm,
They are go-getters. They want to make
nice to
changes.
see.
They're filled with hope. They are not the type who is going to sit in a job for
Yes.
25 years. So the young people that are coming up, they're change makers. So that
Wow.
kind of gave me some hope,
That
yes,
is
about the
really,
next
really good
generation.
to
Yeah.
hear. Yeah, I have two daughters myself. One just turned
Yeah.
18, graduated high school this week, and she's going to college next semester.
Ah,
So yeah,
congrats. Yes.
yeah, I have a lot of hope and yeah, good vibe from the next generation. So something I started recently, I'm going to ask you to ask a question to my next guest. What question should I ask them?
Your next guest. Well, I guess probably it depends on who your next guest is going to be.
Well,
But
it
but
doesn't
any
matter.
guest, I mean, it comes back again to my framework. How are you going to add value
Mm,
to someone you are going to meet tomorrow?
powerful,
Okay.
powerful, powerful. That could really, really, really change your life if you put it into practice
Yes.
every
Yes.
day. All right. So before I end, is there a question I should have asked you I didn't get a chance to ask? Anything else you wanted to talk about today?
Um, I can't think of any really. What do I see myself doing 10 years from now? Another love of mine is
Hmm.
real estate development, because and that's one of the things why part of my scholarship is architecture, because
Wow.
having a roof over your head is so important. So
Yes.
that is something that I love, and I'm looking
Fantastic.
into, that.
What
So
What do you think about artificial intelligence? Everybody's talking about that this
you
day.
know what? I would tell you, if you had asked me like a year previously, I was worried about using AI because my thing is it would take over my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And as practicing law, I don't want that to happen. So in the
Yes.
interest of full disclosure, I mean, I use AI to help put my book together
Mm-hmm.
for me. And I can tell you, I do think it's a game changer. You've got to be careful
Yes.
because it is not perfect. And you've got to make sure that you know what you are doing.
So human
Okay.
oversight.
Yeah, the human intelligence, we can't forget that part of it.
Yes. Yes.
We cannot forget that part of it. But I think it has make work a lot easier just in
Mm-hmm.
terms of moving forward.
Wow.
So
Powerful.
you're either going to move with the change or
Mm-hmm.
it's going to leave you behind.
So
So
true. So
you know
true.
what?
Wow.
Don't fight it because everything now has a bit of AI in it. Yeah.
All right, very, very last question, and this is the end of the show. One word that represents our shared experience in this podcast today.
One word?
Mhm.
Values, of course. Come
Values.
on.
Yes, yes.
Oh my
Value.
goodness.
I have great values. I value people, and I add value.
Add value to them. Yeah. Oh man, it is so
Well,
important.
Coach Lorna, I am
Anchor.
so glad to be talking to you today, and thanks
Thank
again for giving
you.
us extra time. And everyone, again, get a copy of the book. Everybody needs to get it. Leadership starts in the mirror. This could be life changing. Thanks again. I really appreciate
Thank
talking
you
to you
so
today.
much. I do appreciate
Okay.
it.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So follow Coach Lorna on LinkedIn, and you can reach out to her. And that's on LinkedIn, Lorna-A-George, and our website, equippingtothrive.com. And again, purchase the book, and you will have access to our course or online course for absolutely free. Thank you. Thank you so much for supporting our guest on this show. And as we are ending, as everybody knows, I've been celebrating Black History Year every day of this year because I felt like 28 days was just not long enough. So for today, there are a couple of things. The first thing is the first African American to serve a full term on the New York Highest Court. That was Fritz W. Alexander the second. Here he is, and I've written a post about him on LinkedIn. You can learn all about him. Now, the other thing about Black History Month I'm going to mention really, really broke my heart. This is today, right? Today is June the 16th, 2026. This was June the 16th, 1944. George Stinney Jr., he was only 14 years old. And a racist judge in South Carolina executed this young boy with the electric chair. He's the youngest person executed in the US during the 20th century. I'm going to play a short video about that. Really, really, really breaks my heart. But one reason why I think it's important for us to know this history and not deny it is because if we don't know that history, we are going to repeat this again. But if we know it, I think we can all do better. So I'm going to play a short video about this young man. And that's going to be the end of the show today.
On June 16th, 1944, a 14-year-old boy named George Stinney was executed in the electric chair in Columbia, South Carolina. 3 months earlier, 2 white girls disappeared and were later found dead. George Stinney, a black boy, had volunteered to help and joined the search party with his father. He mentioned to a bystander that he had seen the girls briefly the day they went missing. Though there was no evidence connecting George to the murders, he was immediately arrested and subjected to hours of interrogation alone. The sheriff later claimed that George confessed to killing the girls, but no written or signed statement existed. George's father was fired from his job and his family was forced to flee after receiving death threats. Nearly a month later, George Stinney faced a sham trial virtually alone. No black people were allowed inside the courthouse, and his court-appointed attorney did not call a single witness to aid George's case. The sheriff's testimony about George's alleged confession was the only evidence presented. An all-white jury deliberated for 10 minutes before convicting George Stinney of murder, and the judge sentenced the 14-year-old child to death. Despite appeals from black advocacy groups and evidence that George was innocent, Governor Olin Johnson refused to intervene. During the execution, state officials forced George to sit on a book. At just 90 pounds, he was too small for the straps of the electric chair. 14-year-old George Stinney remains the youngest person executed in the United States in the 20th century.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If today's episode added value to your leadership journey, be sure to subscribe, share, and join us again for more wisdom nuggets on how to lead better and achieve greater success. Remember, leadership is the most critical skill of our time. The world will always need leaders to inspire others, drive innovation, and execute meaningful strategy. So why not count yourself among the bold leaders shaping the 21st century? Until next time, stay inspired, stay committed, and keep leading with excellence.